The stars had never looked so cold and distant as they did on that fateful morning. Captain James Reed stood at the main viewport of the Earth Defense Fleet's flagship, the Horizon, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. Something was wrong with the cosmos, and he could feel it in his bones. "Captain," called out First Officer Adams from her command station, "we've lost contact with the Mars colony." Again. She paused, her fingers dancing across the holographic display. "But this time, it's different. All frequencies are dead." Reed turned slowly, his gray eyes narrowing. Over his 20 years in space, he had learned to trust his instincts. Try the old frequencies, even the outdated ones. The communication officer, Tom Wilson, a young man with quick hands and an even quicker mind, began working through every channel available. "Sir, I've tried everything from modern quantum channels to basic radio. There's just nothing." As the hours passed, reports began flooding in from across human space. The Titan mining base went dark. Then the Europa Research Station. One by one, humanity's footprints across the solar system fell silent. In the ship's science lab, Dr. Lisa Brown stared at her instruments in disbelief. "Captain," she called over the intercom, "you need to see this." When Reed arrived, she pointed to a display showing wave patterns. "It's not just our communications that are failing. Something is actively suppressing all electromagnetic signals in space." Reed watched the patterns, remembering his basic physics training. "All of them. Almost." Dr. Brown pulled up another screen. "Except for some very basic radio frequencies, the kind we used back in the 20th century. Primitive stuff, really. Everything else is being muted." The situation grew worse as Earth's deep space monitoring stations picked up something even more troubling. The advanced alien civilizations they had been observing for years, the ones humanity had yet to make official contact with, were going dark too. Their massive energy signatures vanished like candles being snuffed out. In the following days, Earth's governments gathered in an emergency session. The Horizon's crew watched the broadcast using old-style radio waves, now humanity's only reliable form of long-distance communication. "We're receiving scattered reports," announced the council president, her voice crackling through the speakers. "The effect is spreading. Advanced civilizations across our arm of the galaxy are losing their ability to communicate. Their quantum networks, they're faster than light channels. Everything is being suppressed." Reed stood in his command center, surrounded by screens showing the spreading silence. It was like watching a dark wave roll across the stars, leaving only emptiness in its wake. But there was something else, something that made his pulse quicken with both fear and hope. "Sir," called Wilson from his station, excitement creeping into his voice, "I'm picking up signals. Old ones. Radio waves from at least 3 different alien civilizations. They're using our old technology." Reed leaned forward, listening to the simple patterns being broadcast across space. The advanced races, faced with the loss of their sophisticated systems, were falling back on humanity's primitive technology that still worked. "Get me Earth Command," Reed ordered, a plan already forming in his mind. "If we're the only ones who can still talk across the stars, then we have a responsibility." The response from Earth Command was quick and clear. The Earth Defense Fleet would become humanity's voice in the darkness. They would reach out to their colonies, find a way to contact these alien civilizations, and discover what was causing the Great Silence. As Reed looked out at the stars once more, he couldn't help but smile at the irony. Humanity, often considered the newcomers to space, the ones still using outdated technology, might just be the ones to save everyone. "Send this message on all working frequencies," Reed commanded, "to any civilization that can hear us. Humanity stands ready to help. We will not let the silence win." The simple radio waves carried his words out into the cosmos, a human voice calling out in the darkness, proving that sometimes the oldest tools were the best ones. The great silence had fallen over the stars, but humanity's voice still rang true, carried by the very technology they had been mocked for keeping. The greatest challenge in human history was just beginning, and Earth's primitive technology might be the key to facing it. Dr. Marie Walker hadn't slept in 3 days. The walls of her lab at Earth's Global Science Center were covered with papers, charts, and old radio wave patterns. Empty coffee cups littered her desk, testament to her endless work hours. "It doesn't make sense," she muttered, staring at the data streams. "Nothing just appears and shuts down all advanced communication systems at once." Her computer beeped, displaying new data from the Earth Defense Fleet. More alien civilizations had gone silent, but something in the patterns caught her eye. A rhythm, a pulse that seemed almost artificial. The door opened, and Captain Reed walked in, looking as tired as she felt. "Tell me you have something, Doctor." "I think I do," she said, pointing to her screens. "Look at these patterns. The silence isn't natural. Someone made it." Reed leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. "Made it? Who?" "An ancient race, maybe. The pattern suggests a network of devices, probably hidden in the galactic core. They're creating a field that blocks advanced communications." She pulled up another image. "But here's the interesting part. It's not affecting human brainwaves at all." Before Reed could respond, alarms blared throughout the building. On the main screen, new signals appeared, crude light pulses coming from the direction of the most advanced alien civilization they knew of. "They're using light signals," Reed said, amazed. "Like old ship lanterns." Dr. Walker nodded. "The quieted. That's what we're calling them now. Advanced races reduced to using flags and lights." She turned to face Reed. "But we can still help them." At that moment, Tom Wilson's voice came through on the old-style radio. "Captain, Doctor, you need to see this. We're picking up something strange from the Mars colony." In the colony's main dome, humans were discovering something extraordinary. While their regular communications were dead, they could still send messages through a very unusual method: their thoughts. Dr. Walker rushed to her instruments. "It's the brainwaves. Human brainwave patterns are different. They're resistant to the silence field." Over the next few days, Earth became humanity's last center of communication. Ships from the Defense Fleet spread out across space, using old radio equipment to maintain contact. They found colony after colony, each discovering the same thing. Humans could still connect through their minds where technology failed. In her lab, Dr. Walker worked with a team to build something new. They called it the Voice, a device that could amplify human brainwave patterns. The first tests made nearby computers spark and come alive, breaking through the silence field for a few precious moments. "It's not perfect," she explained to Reed and the Earth Council, "but it proves something important. Whoever built this silence field, they didn't account for human minds. We're different somehow. Special." Reed stood at the council table, looking at the assembled leaders. "We've received more signals from the quieted. They're gathering near the edge of our solar system. I think they're asking for help." The council president stood up. "Then we'll help them. Humanity will not stand by while the galaxy falls into darkness." Dr. Walker's voice was firm as she added, "The silence field is spreading, but now we know it's artificial. That means it has a source. It can be stopped." The council chambers erupted in discussion. Plans were made. The Earth Defense Fleet would expand its mission, reaching out to the quieted civilizations. Dr. Walker would lead a team to develop more powerful versions of the Voice. Humanity would become the speakers for a silent galaxy. As the meeting ended, Reed and Dr. Walker stood at a window, watching ships launch into the night sky. Each carried old radio equipment, signal flags, and prototype voice devices. Each represented hope for a galaxy that had lost its ability to speak. "It's ironic," Reed said quietly. "All those advanced races used to think we were backward, keeping our old technology alongside the new. Now that same backward technology might save them all." Dr. Walker smiled. "Sometimes the oldest ways are the strongest, and sometimes being different, being human, is exactly what the universe needs. Above them, the stars seemed a little less silent, a little more alive. Humanity had found its role in the cosmos, not just to speak, but to help others find their voices again. The silence had made them strong, and that strength would echo across the stars. Commander Thomas Grant stood in the control room of the Earth Defense Fleet's newest ship, the Thunder. Around him, the crew worked with a strange mix of old and new technology. Modern screens sat next to old-style radio sets. Digital displays showed ancient Morse code patterns. Signal check, he called out to his communication officer, Jane Baker. Baker's fingers moved across her station, testing each system. Old radio waves working. Morse code transmitters ready. Flag signals prepped on all decks. She smiled. "We're as low-tech as we can get, Commander." The Thunder was humanity's answer to the silence. While other ships in space sat dead and quiet, unable to use their advanced systems, the Thunder roared to life with technology from Earth's past. "Begin Operation Whisper," Grant ordered. The Thunder's engines hummed as they moved toward the nearest human colony on Europa. Dr. Walker's voice crackled through the old radio. "Commander, remember to test the new voice device once you're halfway there. We need to know its range." The voice had grown stronger since its first creation. Now installed on the Thunder, it looked like a strange mixture of old radio parts and modern brain scanning equipment. Its purpose was simple but powerful: to turn human thoughts into space-crossing signals. As they traveled, the crew made an unexpected discovery. Jack Miller, the ship's music officer, a position that hadn't existed until now, was testing some old songs through their communication system when something strange happened. "Commander," Miller called out excitedly, "you need to see this." On his screen, the silence field that blocked all advanced communications showed disturbances, waves and ripples appearing whenever certain songs played. "It's the patterns," Dr. Walker explained when they reported it. "Human music, our rhythms, our harmonies, they're disrupting the field somehow." Grant ordered more tests. They tried different types of music, different voices, different patterns. Classical music created small breaks in the silence. Rock music made bigger ones, but human voices singing together. That made the biggest disruption of all. "It's like the field wasn't designed to handle human creativity," Baker suggested, "like it can't process what we create." The discovery changed their mission. The Thunder became more than just a ship. It became a broadcasting station. They played music into space, sent out human voices, all while using their old technology to maintain contact with Earth. When they reached Europa, they found the colony in better shape than expected. The colonists had already adapted, using light signals and primitive radio waves to communicate. But what really surprised them was what the colonists had built. "We call it the drum," explained colony leader Robert West, showing them a massive device. "It sends vibrations through the ice of Europa. We found out we could use it to communicate with the other bases. The silence field doesn't affect physical vibrations." Grant walked around the drum, amazed at human creativity. "You've turned Europa's entire moon into a communication device." Back on the Thunder, they received news from Earth. Other colonies had made similar adaptations. Mars used seismic waves. The moon base used light reflectors. Humanity hadn't just survived the silence. They had found new ways to break through it. "Begin Phase 2, Grant ordered. The Thunder's crew prepared for their next mission: contact with the quieted aliens who had gathered near Saturn. The ship moved through space, broadcasting music and voice patterns, creating bubbles of clear communication wherever it went. The voice device hummed with human thoughts, pushing against the silence field. Old radio waves carried their messages, proof that sometimes moving backward was the way to move forward. "It's working," Baker reported, watching the signals spread. "The quieted are responding. They're learning our old methods. They're starting to sing." Grant stood at his command station, listening to the strange mixture of human music and alien harmonies that now filled their communication channels. The silence was still there, but now they knew it wasn't unbeatable. Humanity had found its voice in the cosmos, and soon they would help others find theirs too. Send to Earth Command. Grant ordered. Operation Whisper is a success. Phase 2 is ready to begin. The thunder is about to get louder. The test chamber at Earth's Global Science Center hummed with energy. Dr. Walker stood behind thick safety glass, watching as the voice powered up for its biggest test yet. The device had grown from a small experimental unit into something that filled half the room, covered in lights and ancient radio parts. All personnel, clear the testing area, she announced over the old-style speaker system. Test number 57 of Project Voice is about to begin. In the chamber, 20 volunteers sat in circles, each wearing simple brainwave readers. They had practiced for weeks, learning to focus their thoughts together. Now was the moment of truth. Begin the sequence, Dr. Walker ordered. The volunteers started humming, a simple tune that grew stronger as their voices joined together. The voice began to pulse with blue light, picking up their mental patterns and amplifying them. On the monitors, the silence field that had covered Earth for months began to ripple. Then, like ice cracking on a frozen lake, it started to break. A bubble of clear space formed around the facility, growing larger with each passing second. "It's working," shouted Tom Wilson from his monitoring station. "We're getting clear signals. All frequencies." Dr. Walker grabbed the old radio microphone. "Captain Reed, are you receiving this?" Up in orbit, aboard the Horizon, Reed watched in amazement as his ship's advanced communications suddenly came back to life. "We're reading you perfectly, Doctor. The bubble reaches all the way to orbit. How long can you maintain it?" "As long as our volunteers can keep focusing," she replied. "But that's not all. Look at your long-range scanners." Reed turned to his screen and froze. In the darkness of space, where the silence field blocked all signals, they could now see something. Massive structures, hidden in the galactic core, pulsing with energy. "The source," Dr. Walker explained. "The devices creating the silence field. We can see them now that we've broken through." The discovery changed everything. Within hours, Earth's military leaders gathered for an emergency meeting. The Horizon's crew watched through their newly restored video link as plans were made. "Operation Thunderclap is now in effect," announced Admiral White. "Every ship equipped with the voice will create corridors of clear communication through space. We're going to light up the darkness." Across Earth's solar system, ships like Commander Grant's Thunder began moving into position. Each carried volunteers ready to power their voice devices. Each represented hope for the silent galaxy. On the edge of the solar system, the quieted aliens watched and waited. Their massive ships, once filled with advanced technology, now communicated through simple light flashes. But those flashes showed excitement as human ships approached. "First contact team, prepare for approach," Reed ordered from the Horizon. They had practiced this moment for weeks. Old-style radio signals, simple music, and now the voice would all work together. The alien ships responded to human signals, slowly at first, then with growing confidence. Their own attempts at music joined the human broadcasts, creating strange but beautiful harmonies in space. "They're learning," Dr. Walker observed from Earth, "not just copying our methods, but understanding them, making them their own." In her lab, researchers made another breakthrough. The aliens' musical responses, when combined with human brainwaves through the voice, created even larger breaks in the silence field. "It's like a key and lock," she explained to Reed. "Human patterns break through first, making a way for others to add their own voice. We're not just fighting the silence, we're teaching others how to fight it too." The bubble of clear communication grew larger each day. Ships moved further into space, creating paths of sound and signal through the silence. Earth became a beacon, drawing quiet ships from across the galaxy. "We found something else in the galactic core scans," Wilson reported to Reed. "The silence devices. They're old, really old, like millions of years old." Reed stared at the scans. Someone built these things long ago. The question is, why? And who? Dr. Walker added through the radio. But we're getting closer to answers. Each breakthrough shows us more. As the sun set on Earth that day, humanity's voice echoed stronger than ever through the cosmos. They had broken through the silence, not just for themselves, but for every race that had lost its voice. The greatest challenge still lay ahead, facing whatever waited in the galactic core. But now they knew it could be done. The silence could be broken, and humanity would lead the way. The horizon pushed deeper into space than any human ship had gone before. Captain Reed stood at the bridge, watching as they approached the galactic core. Behind them, a fleet of Earth's ships and restored alien vessels followed, each carrying their own voice devices. "Sir," called Wilson from his station, "we're picking up something strange. It's like old data, really old." On the main screen, ancient symbols appeared. They weren't like anything humans had seen before, but the voice devices somehow made them readable, translating them into patterns everyone could understand. They called themselves the Silencers. Dr. Walker's voice came through the radio from Earth. She had been studying the translations for hours. They weren't evil, just afraid. According to the ancient records, the Silencers had been one of the first races to reach the stars. But what they found there terrified them. They saw how communication led to conflict, how different species meeting often meant war. Their solution was simple but extreme. Stop all advanced communication. They built the silence devices millions of years ago, Dr. Walker explained. Then they went to sleep in some kind of stasis, leaving their machines to keep the peace. Reed looked out at the dense star field of the galactic core. And now, their machines have woken up. But why now? The answer came from an unexpected source. One of the quieted races, using a combination of light signals and the voice, shared their story. They had discovered something powerful, a way to talk across dimensions. But that discovery had awakened the ancient systems. The Silencers' machines saw it as too dangerous, Dr. Walker said. They activated their full protocol for the first time in millions of years. As the fleet moved closer to the core, they found more evidence of the Silencers' work. Massive space stations floated in the darkness, each one pumping out the waves that created the silence field. Multiple contacts. Baker shouted from her station on the Thunder. The stations are activating defense systems. Ancient weapons, dormant for millions of years, began to power up. The Silencers had left guardians to protect their legacy. "All ships, hold position," Reed ordered. "Power up your voice devices, full strength." Across the fleet, volunteers focused their thoughts. Human music played through old radio speakers. The quieted aliens added their own harmonies. Together, they pushed against the silence field. "It's working," Wilson reported. "The field is weakening." But he paused, checking his readings. "The defense systems are adapting. They're learning from our patterns." This was the moment humanity had been preparing for. All their primitive technology, all their unused backup systems, became their greatest strength. While the ancient defenses tried to block their advanced signals, simple radio waves slipped through. "Launch the probes," Reed commanded. Small devices, built with the simplest technology Earth could make, shot out from the human ships. They carried basic recordings, human voices, songs, and messages of peace. "Sir," Wilson's voice was excited. "The probes, they're connecting with the station's control systems. The old tech, it's so simple the defenses don't recognize it as a threat." Dr. Walker's voice crackled through the radio. The Silencers were so focused on stopping advanced communication, they never thought about the basics. The things we never gave up. Inside the ancient stations, human music began to play through systems that hadn't made a sound in millions of years. The voice devices added their power, carrying human thoughts and emotions along with the sound. "Look at the stations," Baker whispered. The massive structures were changing. Their harsh angles softened. The silence field wavered as the stations responded to something they had never encountered: the simple, powerful rhythm of human creativity. They're not just machines, Dr. Walker realized. The silencers built them to think, to learn. And now they're learning something new. Reed watched as the defense systems powered down. The ancient stations, programmed to prevent communication, were beginning to understand that not all connection led to conflict. The fleet hung in space, surrounded by the sleeping giants of a long-dead race. They had found the source of the silence, but ending it wouldn't be as simple as destroying the silencers' work. "We need to show them a better way," Reed said quietly. "Not through force, but through harmony." The real challenge was just beginning. The combined fleet of human and alien ships hung in space near the ancient stations. Through the horizon's viewports, Captain Reed watched as more ships arrived, vessels of all shapes and sizes, drawn by the promise of breaking the silence. "Project Babel is ready," Dr. Walker announced through the old radio. Back on Earth, they had built something unprecedented: a massive array of voice devices, powered by thousands of volunteers. Commander Grant's voice came next from the thunder. "All ships report ready, Captain. The Quieted have synchronized their light signals with our broadcast patterns." It was time for the greatest test of human ingenuity. The plan was both simple and incredibly complex: not to destroy the silencer's technology, but to change it. "Begin the sequence," Reed ordered. "All ships, power up your voice devices." Across the fleet, volunteers closed their eyes and focused. Human music began to play. Everything from classical symphonies to simple folk songs. The Quieted aliens added their own sounds, creating a symphony unlike anything the galaxy had ever heard. The ancient stations responded immediately. Their defense systems activated, sending out waves of energy that tried to suppress all signals. But humanity was ready. "Launch the radio probes," Baker called out from her station. Hundreds of small probes, each carrying nothing but old-style radio equipment, shot out from the human ships. They were so simple that the ancient defenses didn't even see them as technology. "Project Babel, commence transmission," Reed commanded. Back on Earth, thousands of humans joined their thoughts together. The massive voice array lit up like a new sun, sending waves of human consciousness into space. The effect was immediate. The silence field rippled and cracked. The ancient station's lights flickered as they encountered something their creators had never planned for: the combined creative force of multiple species working together. "Warning," Wilson shouted. "The stations are launching defensive drones." Swarms of ancient machines emerged from the stations, their technology far beyond anything humanity had ever seen. But they had a critical weakness: they were designed to fight advanced weapons. "All ships, switch to backup systems," Reed ordered. "Use the old ways." The human fleet responded brilliantly. Ships used simple radio-controlled missiles. Pilots navigated by basic instruments. The Quieted aliens, learning from humanity, used pure light and sound to confuse the ancient drones. "The probes are reaching the central station," Dr. Walker reported excitedly. "The old radio signals. They're getting through." Inside the largest station, human music began to play through systems that hadn't made a sound in millions of years. The simple melodies carried with them something the silencers had never considered: the power of harmony over silence. But the stations fought back. The silence field intensified, threatening to drown out even the old radio signals. Ships lost power as the suppression field grew stronger. "We need more," Reed called out. "Everything we've got." Across the fleet, humans and aliens joined together. They sang, not just with their voices, but with light, with radio waves, with every form of communication they had. The voice devices amplified it all, carrying their unified message to the ancient machines. "Look," Baker pointed at the main screen. The central station's pattern was changing. The harsh, suppressing waves it emitted began to shift, becoming something new. The silencer's technology, programmed to learn and adapt, was finally understanding a truth its creators had missed. "They're accepting the harmony," Dr. Walker whispered through the radio. "The stations are learning that communication doesn't have to lead to chaos." Reed watched as the defensive drones stopped their attack. The silence field wavered, not in resistance, but in change. The ancient machines, built to prevent understanding between species, were beginning to understand themselves. "All ships maintain broadcast," Reed ordered. "We're nearly there." The combined fleet held their position, every ship adding its voice to the galaxy-spanning chorus. They weren't fighting anymore, they were teaching. And slowly, steadily, the machines that had enforced silence for millions of years began to learn a new way. The final breakthrough was close, but no one knew exactly what would happen when machines designed to create silence finally learned to sing. The moment of transformation began with a single, pure note. It rose from the central station of the silencer's ancient network, a sound unlike anything ever heard in the galaxy. The machines, built to enforce silence, had learned to sing. "Something's happening," Wilson called from his station on the horizon. "The station's core. It's changing." Dr. Walker's voice came through the radio, filled with excitement. The silencer's technology was designed to learn and adapt. Now it's adapting to something entirely new: harmony. Waves of energy pulsed from the central station, but they were different now. Instead of suppressing communication, they enhanced it. The silence field that had covered the galaxy began to transform. "All ships, maintain your broadcasts," Captain Reed ordered. "Keep the voice devices at full power." Across the combined fleet, humans and aliens worked together. The voice devices hummed with the thoughts of thousands. Songs in hundreds of languages filled the communication channels. Light signals from the quieted ships danced between the stars. Then something magical happened. The ancient stations, one by one, began to echo the songs back. But they didn't just repeat them, they enhanced them, carrying them further than any signal had ever traveled before. "The suppression network," Dr. Walker gasped. "It's becoming a communication network." Reed watched in amazement as new patterns of light and energy spread across space. The silencer's machines, meant to divide, were now connecting the galaxy in ways their creators had never imagined. Commander Grant's voice came through from the thunder. "We're picking up signals from everywhere, every civilization that went quiet. They're all coming back online." But they weren't returning to their old ways of communication. Instead, they were joining the harmony that humanity had started. The voice devices had shown them a new path, one where different species could share their thoughts and feelings without losing their unique songs. "Look at the stations," Baker whispered. The massive structures were glowing now, their harsh angles softened by waves of light that pulsed in time with the galaxy's new song. The machines that had slept for millions of years were fully awake, but with a new purpose. Dr. Walker's team on Earth made an incredible discovery. The network, it's not just carrying signals anymore. It's learning from every species that connects to it, growing, becoming something new. Across the galaxy, civilizations that had lost their voices found them again. But now, they spoke with greater understanding, their communications enriched by the very machines that had once silenced them. "Send this message to all ships," Reed commanded. "The silence is over. But our real work is just beginning." He was right. Earth had become the center of something unprecedented, a galaxy-wide network of communication built on harmony instead of division. The voice devices, once a desperate solution, were now teaching the ancient machines how to blend different forms of communication into something greater than the sum of its parts. In the weeks that followed, ships from thousands of worlds came to Earth. They came to learn the old technologies that had proven so powerful. They came to study the voice devices and the human music that had changed everything. But most of all, they came to understand how humanity had done the impossible. "We never gave up our old ways," Dr. Walker explained to a gathering of alien scientists. "We kept the simple things alongside the advanced ones. And in doing so, we learned that true communication isn't about technology. It's about finding ways to share who we are. The ancient stations continued their work, but now they amplified understanding instead of enforcing silence. The silencer's fear of chaos had been transformed into something beautiful, a symphony of different voices, all singing together across the stars. Captain Reed stood on the Horizon's bridge one last time before returning to Earth. The view had changed. Where once there had been silence, now there was light and music and life. "Send the final message," he said quietly. Through the new network, carried by both the simplest radio waves and the most advanced alien technology, humanity's message reached every corner of the galaxy. "The silence has been broken. Let the symphony begin." And in response, every civilization, every species, every voice in the cosmos joined together in a harmony that would echo through the ages. A great silence had fallen, but humanity's roar had broken through, teaching the galaxy that the most powerful force wasn't silence. It was the courage to sing together.